Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister. You are talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there, redevelopment? And Mr. Prime Minister, do you see this idea as a way to expand the boundaries of Israel and to have a longer peace, even though the Israeli people know how important that land is to you and your citizens, just as the space is inherited by the Palestinians as well?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area that nobody would know. Nobody can look because all they see is death and destruction and rubble and demolished buildings falling all over. It's just a terrible sight. I've studied it. I've studied this very closely over a lot of months, and I've seen it from every different angle, and it's a very, very dangerous place to be, and it's only going to get worse very quickly. I also strongly believe that the Gaza Strip, which has been a symbol of death and destruction for so many decades, and so bad for the people anywhere near it, and especially those who live there, and frankly, who's been really very unlucky. It's been very unlucky. It's been an unlucky place for a long time. Being in its presence just has not been good, and it should not go through a process of rebuilding and occupation by the same people that have really stood there and fought for it and lived there and died there and lived a miserable existence there.
Holy, what? So he's on stage with Netanyahu, the guy ordering the bombing and the killings and all the actions in Gaza, turning it into what many people consider an open-air concentration camp. A prison. Trump is saying that's bad luck. And you know what? Those people that have fought and died and lived there and fought for it, they shouldn't have it. So who should have it? Who should have Gaza, Trump?
Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this. And
other countries with humanitarian hearts. So let's see, is he going to suggest, I don't know, more aid to Gaza? That seems like something Republicans would be against.
build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and, frankly, bad luck. This could be paid for by neighboring countries of great wealth. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12. It could be numerous sites, or it could be one large site.
So he's talking about building domains. It sounds kind of like he's trying to divvy up Gaza to various countries where you can just buy in and take over and essentially get the slave labor of whoever's there. Because remember, he's wanting to keep the people there. They just don't get to control where they live or have any say.
But the people will be able to live in comfort and peace, and we'll make sure something really spectacular is done. They're going to have peace. They're not going to be shot at and killed and destroyed like this.
Remember, he's saying this on stage with Netanyahu, the guy who orders all of that.
Civilization of wonderful people has had to endure. The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip.
There it is. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip. Donald Trump wants to take over land. He wanted to take over Greenland. He wanted to take over the Panama Canal. He wants to take over something so he can try to use that as a big thing he can have as a legacy, right? And what he's wanting to do here, what he is proposing, from what I'm understanding, and we'll listen to some more, is that foreign nations will pay for it. They'll pay to fix all this up, and they'll get, as he calls, domains. I'm going to be honest, my first thought is shopping center, golf course, things Trump would like. But then the land itself now belongs to the United States. Now, I don't think I'm crazy in saying that the United States doing this, taking ownership of Gaza, will, without a doubt, lead the United States into a war in the Middle East. And these people living in Gaza, they are going to be occupied by the United States. Do you think they're going to be doing that peacefully, or is the United States going to have problems trying to take over these people? I think these are very obvious consequences that are going to lead to a lot of death and destruction, even more. And Trump's okay with that because he wants land.
And we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling.
We'll own it. Don't let it question. We'll own it.
All of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site.
Oh, we're going to get rid of all the unexploded bombs that are from Israel, that Israel paid for with U.S. money, that were ordered to be used by the guy you're on stage with. but apparently it's going to be paid for by other countries?
Level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years. I'm hopeful that this...
We can't go back. From the guy whose slogan is "Make America Great Again."
ceasefire could be the beginning of a larger and more enduring peace that will end the bloodshed and killing once and for
I think the ceasefire is probably going to end. I'm going to be honest with you. I think this plan, if it is as Trump is wording, which is a chance Trump is just wrong, and this isn't actually what he has been agreed to with Netanyahu, and he's making stuff up on stage and just lying to the world. That is a high probability with Trump. But I highly expect that if this is actually what they're planning, where they're going to level Gaza and put the United States in charge, that the ceasefire isn't going to last.
for all. With the same goal in mind, my administration has been moving quickly to restore trust in the alliance and rebuild American strength throughout the region. And
trust in America. He has threatened China, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Colombia, Greenland, Venezuela, all of Europe, now Gaza, which him trying to put the U.S. permanently in Gaza with ownership is a threat to basically the entire Middle East.
And we've really done that. We're a respected nation again. A lot's happened in the last couple of weeks. We are actually a very respected nation again. I ended the last administration's de facto arms embargo, went over $1 billion in military assistance for Israel. And I'm also pleased to announce that this afternoon, the United States withdrew from the Anti-Semitic UN Human Rights Council and ended all of the support for the UN Relief and Works Agency, which funneled money to Hamas and which was very disloyal to humanity. Today, I also took action to restore a maximum pressure policy on...
I will say, if you're going to talk about taking over a people and it sounds like he wants to use them as slave labor, essentially. Force them to not be able to leave and take control. If you're going to do that, it does make sense to back out of the Human Rights Council. It truly does. It really does.
The Iranian regime, and we will once again enforce the most aggressive possible sanctions, drive Iranian oil exports to zero, and diminish the regime's capacity to fund terror throughout the region.
Oh, there you go. He's just setting us up for another economic war in the Middle East, at least economic for now. Well, Gaza is setting us up for a physical one.
Throughout the world, we had no threat when I left office. Iran was not able to sell oil. Nobody was buying oil because I said, don't buy it. If you buy it, you're not doing any business with the United States. And Hamas was not being funded. Hezbollah was not being funded. Nobody was being funded. There would never have been an October 7th. 2 weeks ago, I once again designated the Houthis as a terrorist organization. They're trying to destroy world shipping lanes, and that's not going to happen. And over the weekend, I ordered airstrikes against senior ISIS leaders hiding in the caves of Somalia and took them out. Here in America.
Remember, he bragged that he got rid of all of ISIS, but he didn't.
We've begun the process of deporting foreign terrorists, jihadists, and Hamas sympathizers from our soil, just as we have people that are extremely evil, and we're sending them out of our country. They came from jails, they came from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they were dumped into our country. They're gang members, and we're getting them out at numbers that nobody can actually believe. And every single country is taking those people back. They said they would never take them back, and they're all taking them back.
So here's the thing, I don't know if he'll mention it, because I haven't gotten this far. Fun fact for those that haven't been following along, Trump is now claiming he has a deal with a foreign nation, what's considered some of the worst prisons in the world, to ship American citizens there to serve their sentence. He wants to take American citizens who are being held in prison and essentially deport them to prisons so vile that it would be illegal in this country. And he's going to pay those countries to have those citizens there. He is essentially wanting to pay foreign nations to torture American citizens. Don't believe me, you can look that one up, because he's very proud of that.
And they're taking them back very gladly. And I recently signed an executive order combating the vile wave of anti-Semitism that we've seen in the aftermath of the October 7th attacks. Together, America and Israel will renew the optimism that shined so brightly just 4 years ago. It was really a bright, beautiful light. We will restore calm and stability to the region and expand prosperity, opportunity, and hope to our nations and for all people of the Middle East, including the Arab and Muslim nations. Very important. We want the Arab and Muslim nations to have peace and have tranquility and have great lives. I'd like to now invite Prime Minister Netanyahu to say a few words, and we'll take some questions afterwards. Thank you.
Honestly, here's the thing, right? When he talks about anti-Semitism, he's not actually talking about anti-Semitism. They never are. What he's talking about is people that don't support the country of Israel. And there has been a big effort to say that if you don't support whatever Israel does, and you don't support the United States sending them so much money to do whatever they want, that you are anti-Semitic. And that is not the case. Real anti-Semitism is actually ignored by people directly in Trump's circle. Kash Patel, the guy he wants to lead the FBI, did multiple interviews with an open anti-Semite, a real one. He's not angry at the country of Israel. He's angry that Jewish people exist. And that wasn't a deal breaker for Trump. That got him one of the highest positions. And trying to take all Jewish people and make them equal to Israel is disgusting and wrong, and it is dangerous. Because when Israel goes and does an action that is abhorrent on the international stage, and you equate Jewish people with Israel, that puts all Jewish people in danger because of what Israel does. Even if they don't support Israel, have never been to Israel, want nothing to do with Israel, they are punished. They are looked at as part of Israel. And it's not just Trump. A lot of people in the Republican Party have said similar things about how Jewish people in America, they'll compare them to Israelis or Israel and act like there's some sort of a bloc that's in support of Israel. They especially get really mad when they vote Democrat. Who thinks this is actually going to bring any form of peace? What this can do is cause more bloodshed than was already happening, expand it across international borders, and cause lasting death, distrust, and hatred extending long past the life of Donald Trump. Because the U.S. wars in the Middle East still anger people. And what does the U.S. do every time we involve ourselves in the Middle East and anger a bunch of people? We wait for a moment to dive right back in and do it again, to justify even more war, to take on even more nations, to try to take their natural resources. It's an obvious ploy. It's going to be interesting to see how this one shakes out, but I cannot see this being a positive for anyone except Donald Trump wanting to be in the history books, Netanyahu showing his control over the United States to get what he wants, and everyone else, including the people of Israel, including the people of Gaza, and including the people of the United States, will suffer.